We have the opportunity to make a habit of empathy.
David Hamilton, President Obama's nominee to the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals, he has argued that judges, quote, need to empathize with the parties to better understand the effects of their rulings. And why did I mention Hamilton? Because Judge Hamilton was President Obama's symbolic first pick to the federal bench. And one White House official said that that nomination would, quote, set the tone for the future. As Alexander Hamilton described in Federalist 78, that judges must maintain an, quote, inflexible and uniform adherence to the rights of the Constitution. Leaders of the current administration, I fear, don't share that deep commitment to fair and objective decision-making. They are risking the very moral authority of the law, and that ultimately is what gives the law its power. The essence of the crossroads we face is to be found in President Obama's so-called empathy standard, a standard he has reaffirmed repeatedly and identified as the core criterion he has in filling vacancies on the federal bench. According to the President, the, quote, critical ingredient, close quote, for judges is the, quote, depth and breadth of their empathy, as well as their, quote, broader vision of what America should be. This is a stunning declaration, I think. To those of us who've dedicated our professional lives to the law, this standard stings the ears. Under the President's standard, the Constitution is no longer, I would suggest, the supreme law of the land. Instead, each court, allowing empathy to be its, to control, becomes a constitutional convention unto itself, controlled by the judge's own personal vision for societal change and political transformation. So this is what I call the siren call of activism. Under this standard, the historic judicial oath that judges take, quote, to administer justice without respect to persons, to, quote, do equal right to the poor and the rich, and to act, quote, faithfully and impartially under the Constitution and laws of the United States, is replaced by a new approach. This new approach frees this lifetime appointed, unaccountable politically, judge from the restraints of impartiality and constitutional justice and permits him to evolve the law to achieve their desired outcome. In short, the empathy standard is a politically new but carefully chosen code word for the old and brazen form of judicial activism this society has done so much to resist. Consider the words of Justice Sonia Sotomayor, who President Obama proudly announced he selected using the empathy criteria. In her speeches, she repeatedly said that it was right and natural that a judge's, quote, opinions, sympathies, and prejudices, close quote, would influence their decision-making, and for their personal experiences to affect the facts a judge chooses to see. In other words, judges should not weigh the scales of justice with a blindfold, objectively, but rather with their fingers pressed on the scales. And this is the fatal flaw of empathy. Empathy for one party can only be prejudice against the other. Is that justice? Is that consistent with the great ideals of American law? So if we follow the road paved by the empathy standard, if we abandon the legacy of objective jurisprudence rooted firmly in the Constitution and our legal heritage, we risk losing not only our magnificent legal system, but the very liberties our founders built that system to protect. The founders created a court system that was to be independent, impartial, restrained. All judges must be committed to these ideals if they're fit to serve on the bench. As Alexander Hamilton noted, courts cannot fairly judge laws if they have a hand in making them, nor can they be counted on to curb the excesses of power if they share in it. Today, we see that Alexander Hamilton's fears were not unfounded. Even as the President nominates activists to the bench, judges are now setting national policy based on their views, I think. Well, two paths lie ahead. One path leads to a rejuvenation of America's great legal heritage, a reaffirmation of the values of objective, impartial justice, and a renewed commitment to the legal principles on which our way of life depends. The other path leads us to a rejection of those values and principles and a continued slide to a postmodern society, a brave new world where words and facts no longer have real meaning. When words are bereft of meaning, no right, no liberty is safe. We are in a long and difficult fight, and these are the stakes. We must put the debate squarely to the American people, and we can take comfort in knowing that they are on our side consistently. We've seen it time and again. Even Justice Sotomayor was quick to distance herself from her activist record and prior statements and the empathy standard announced by the President who selected her. Why? Because under the cold light of day, I think she knew her prior statements could not be defended as an operable judicial philosophy. It will not hold up. The American people want judges who follow the law, not make it, who put principle before politics, who put the evidence before their empathy, and who put what the Constitution says before what they wish it said. Simply put, Americans want judges in the mold envisioned by Alexander Hamilton, not David Hamilton. Again, the fight will be long, it will be tough, it will require strength and intellectual rigor to see it through, but it's a fight we can win. We will win.
We have the opportunity to make a habit of empathy.